So, I'm sure that we've all seen a ridiculously priced piece of abstract art sold at auction, either on a news story or in a documentary, and we've wondered why or how. But on the other side of the coin, we've been either in a museum or admittedly even in a Marshall's or a Target, and we've seen a piece of abstract art and it's just been printed on like a cheap piece of canvas, and it gave you pause. And it might have been marked down 2 or 3 times, but you bought it and you hung it either in your hallway or in your bathroom, and you were happy to spend that money. So what is it about abstract art? Well, it's one of those things that really has no rhyme or reason, and you can listen to, experts talk about it all day, their theories, and they can talk about like what makes abstract art valuable. And in my very non-expert opinion, I will tell you that I think it's really about how it makes you feel. And if looking at abstract art made by somebody else can make you feel a certain way, that you'll spend $20 on it or $20 million on it, certainly making abstract art would give you a feeling that certainly couldn't be compared to anything else. So today, I would like to invite you, whether it's your first piece or your 101st piece, to join me in making a piece of abstract art. My name is Dara Herring, and if you've dealt with burnout, your health issues, or the health issues of someone that you love and are caring for, if you've struggled with perfectionism, or just the irrational productivity of today's hustle culture, then you may have stumbled upon the right place, because today and here on this channel, I'm all about helping you tap into remembering what it's like to play. That is not a magic wand. It's certainly not going to help you heal a toxic work environment or a stressful family life, but dealing with and getting back to that sense of play certainly might give you a fresh perspective and some new ideas on how to best deal with that environment, and just help you with coping mechanisms, because it certainly has helped me. Here on this channel, I invite you to join me in some intuitive art making projects, tapping into your creativity, because yes, you have it. I believe we all have creativity, and exploring what it is to make art, good or bad, and just have a wonderful time while you do so. I suspect that this will help you get out of your head, give your brain a break, and help you reduce stress in your day-to-day life. And along the way, you can join me in my journey as a new mixed media artist as I learn about other artists, new materials, and new cultures exploring the world around me. And with my late age diagnosed ADHD, which I suspect was no surprise to my friends and family around me, I suspect that we'll have some interesting side quests along the way. So please like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more in the future. Today, we're going to start with a completely blank slate. Very often one of the scariest things that you can start with. On other days, we'll certainly explore other ways to start an abstract painting, but today, blank slate it is. So we're just going to start with a completely open field, but we're going to limit our materials, and we're going to work primarily with acrylic paints. I'm going to throw in 1 or 2 other mediums, but you are free to stick with acrylic paints. You'll see that what I'm using isn't much difference and doesn't make much of a difference to the end result. So if you have acrylic paint, and that can be anything from professional quality down to craft paint that, at many local stores might be 75 cents for like a small bottle of this size, you can start there, or just follow along, see how I go. Now, don't judge the end product, because it's not so much about the end product, it's about the process and the fun you have along the way. But feel free to just watch the video. You can go out and get some supplies or maybe steal them from some child in your life, or borrow them. Just return them to be nice. And then come back and join me later. And with that, let's go ahead and get to the overhead view. Okay, so we're going to get started. I'm starting off here with a plain piece of paper. Now I am working in a sketchbook, not necessary for you to do so. You can work on a plain sheet of paper, a piece of cardboard even. For paper, you may want something that's kind of heavyweight. I'm using a sketchbook that has watercolor paper, but you can use cardstock, anything with just a slightly heavier weight than, like copy paper, obviously, because we're using some acrylic paint here for this exercise. And then what you see me doing here is taping off the edges, and I'm just using regular masking tape. This is a little trick to use because it allows you to do a couple of things. First off, you don't have to be so careful around the edges. You can kind of just slap the paint around very freely. You don't have to worry about the paint getting on the edges of your sketchbook if you're working in a sketchbook, or onto your table if you're working flat on a table. If you're working flat on a table and just on a single sheet of paper, you can actually tape the paper down to your table. That would make life a little bit easier for you, perhaps. And then the other thing it allows you to do is once you're done, you can peel the paper, the tape off rather, which is a little satisfying, but it gives you a nice clean edge around your work, which, again, I've said, we're not really focusing on the outcome. It's more about the process. But I will tell you, even if you're not in love with the outcome, once you are done with the activity, there's something about peeling off and seeing a nice, clean, crisp edge. It really gives any work, really, no matter what it kind of looks like, a very polished and professional finish. So you might just want to explore taping off your edges. Give it a try. If you're working on a canvas, because you certainly could work on a little mini canvas, or even a larger one if you have one on hand, you certainly don't have to worry about taping off the edges. But I've done that here, and we'll see what happens when I peel those off at the end. And what I'm going in with is just some acrylic paint that I mixed for some previous work that I was doing. And I just had them sitting on the side of my desk, and I just decided, hey, let me pick those up and give them a try, because I actually never used these particular colors together. So I just grabbed these little cups of paint and just got to work. There was literally no method to the madness. I had nothing in mind. I just grabbed the colors, and started painting. I primarily worked with just this one paintbrush, keeping it really simple. And the choice I made here was to not stop and let the paint dry. Acrylic paint tends to dry very easily or very quickly. That's one of the benefits of working with it. But in this case, I didn't feel like waiting for it to dry. So I just started to sort of blend the colors together. I knew that was going to happen. If you want another look, you can certainly, drop a color down, sort of step away, do something else, come back to it, allow the paint color to dry, and you'll get more defined edges between your colors. You can still go over them once they're completely dry, which is really a great thing about acrylic paint. In the end, you really can't make a mistake because it's basically plastic, and you can layer on top, layer on top, layer on top, and just keep going until you're done. But in this case, I decided to just kind of see what happens when I sort of blend them together, and not in any really sophisticated way. If I were truly interested in blending the colors together more seamlessly, I would use a different brush rather than just a flat edge brush. I would use one that is more fluffy so that the colors would blend together, and just have a more seamless edge. Okay, so now I have picked up kind of a dark blue with some gray undertone, and you might ask, Dara, why did you pick up that blue? My answer would be, heck if I know, it was sitting there. And that would be the actual answer. The one thing about painting in an intuitive, abstract way is that you don't overthink. And in many cases, you don't really think at all beyond sort of reacting to the last color that you put on the page, the blank space on the page, and sort of what your gut tells you should come next. That's really all that it is. You're not thinking about sort of the end result. And one of the ways to help you get there is to set the mood. So whether that means, lighting a candle that smells really good. And, if you think that, playing in a creative space is something that you might want to do on an ongoing basis, maybe you get a particular candle that you light each time, and the scent of that candle kind of reminds you of what it's like to play creatively. So, when you smell that, it kind of brings to mind your last little creative session. Sounds a little corny, but for many people it works. Maybe there's a certain kind of lighting, there's a certain space, certain kind of music, or a certain kind of tea or wine, whatever. But really, you're not thinking beyond sort of the last thing that you put on the page and what your reaction is to it. So in this case, I was kind of surprised maybe that the first color, that orangey color, and the first bluish gray color sort of dried so dark. I was looking for something a little bit lighter, so I picked up a lighter blue that I happened to mix, and I'm just, sort of playing. I had some music going on in the background, and I was just sort of jamming away. One of the next things I need to learn here on YouTube is how to work in a little bit of music, so I'll be working on that. I'll have some music coming in for my one of the upcoming videos in the future. But anyway, I was just sort of zoning out, listening to some music, playing in some paint. Again, don't think too much and really trust your instincts. This actually might be a really good test for some of you who are probably really good at trusting your instincts in your day-to-day life, but maybe not so much when it comes to playing with paint, because this might be a whole new thing for you. So in this case, now I'm just starting to play around with a different texture. I've turned the brush on its end, so I've kind of just got the very edge of it so that I can get some very small lines, and I'm just sort of brushing those back and forth, trying to see what kind of texture. I usually do mixed media where I'll work in some collage or some texture medium, but in this case, no texture medium, so I'm attempting to get some texture and some depth with just using different movements of the brush. And here now I'm using those same movements, but going back in with a different color and layering them one on top of the other and seeing what the end result is. What I'm starting to pick up here is that this is giving me a sense of movement. So I'm getting a little bit of movement, I'm getting some flow, I'm listening to the music, so I'm just grooving out. At this point, I think it's starting to occur to me like, oh, maybe this is water. And of course, I've recently come back from a vacation where I spent some time learning to surf with questionable results. I did stand up, so there's that. But, now it's starting to make me think a little bit of surfing, and, maybe there's, this is a sky above me. So starting to think that maybe I have a little bit of a direction and playing a little bit with maybe some water splashing above. So maybe these are some of those waves that wiped me out quite a bit during that trip. Who knows? I don't know where this is going to go yet, but I'm starting to get a hint.
Okay, so as I was thinking about water, I was like, okay, maybe there's something I can do here with waves. So I picked up this white colored pencil, and that was worthless. So I reached for this white tempera paint stick and was just sort of playing with that, but I didn't want to be completely literal with like waves, and I wasn't really actually stuck on the idea of this being waves, so I kind of put that to the side. So I went with my old faithful, which is any time I can go with magenta, I will. I'm actually starting to bore myself with the fact that I love this color so much, but I'm addicted. I can't help it. So I picked up the magenta. Don't know what kind of sense it makes, but I just started scribbling in some lines here, mostly going horizontal, doing a little vertical, some mark making. Have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm picking up the speed here because I got a little ways to go in terms of taking you with me. Not sure that this is water, but I'm thinking maybe this is a horizon after all. So you can't have a horizon without a sun. So dropping in a little yellow sun here. But that's not what it has to be, right? But I'm going with it. And I decided to pick up a chalk pastel. You could see me look at it. Wasn't loving the texture over top of the acrylic, but I started it, so I'm going through, just kind of rubbing it in, kind of regretting the decision, and I'm just going to go with it for now. Really not happy about the way that it's showing up on top of the acrylic, but it does give the page a little brightness, which is good. But then I'm feeling like it needs some contrast. It needs a darker value, and value is always a good thing to think about when you're working on an abstract. When you work with colors right out of the tube, you tend to have medium values. So if you took a photo of this and turned it into black and white, you'd have a lot of gray. So I want something that's dark. I didn't want to go with black, but there was this almost like eggplant color that I had mixed up that was inside of one of the cups. So I decided to go with that. And again, playing around on the horizontal line here, kind of dropping that in. Now I changed to a very fine tipped paintbrush just to see, what that could do in terms of giving me some different textures. Here I just kind of wet it and I'm kind of flinging the color onto the page. Again, just sort of playing, experimenting, trying to see if anything's going to come to me. And just kind of dabbing. I am seeing that with a little water added to the color, it's breaking up the eggplant and giving me more of a light wine color. So I like that, and just sort of extending it a little bit vertically to sort of contrast with the yellow that I laid down, as well as with the lighter color magenta, just to mix that up a little bit as well. Really liking the way that dark color is contrasting against the lighter colors, but I'm not sure if I want to take it further yet or just leave that sort of in the center of the painting. So, just dabbing, testing out, extending it a little bit, trying to see how much further I want to go with it. But I like the idea of the small details compared with some of the larger brushstrokes that I made earlier. But with all of the pastels, definitely feeling the desire for a punchier color, something more jewel tone. So I don't have the color that I want mixed in the acrylic. So this is the next best thing. This is, again, one of the tempera paint sticks. These are a kid's art supply, but I love them so much. They're very similar to acrylic paint in my mind. They lay down very similarly and they dry quickly. So they kind of lay down like an oil pastel, if you remember that. kind of more like a lipstick, to be honest, but they dry quickly. They dry to the touch in a way that oil pastels do not. So I love that. So I just like the feel of them going down. So I decided, hey, let me pull out another color and I'll punch up that orangey gold color. So similar to this little sun-ish situation that I laid down earlier, I pulled out a similar color with the tempera paint stick and decided to add that into the mix. So I'm going in, laying that down next to the turquoise blue, just in contrast, and sort of dropping that in. And I'm now kind of digging the way that this is coming together. I like the color contrast. I'm trying to kind of blend this thing out a little bit, and it's not blending out the way that I would like. I'm trying to use it like an oil pastel, and it's starting to sort of beat up like an eraser, which is not sexy. Not digging that at all. So I think what I'm going to try to do is, let's see if I can erase my mistake, pulling out a little handy wipe. Let's see if we can wipe this away, because I'm not sure how acrylic might go on top of that if I decide to layer some on top. So some of it wiped away. We'll see what we can do. Again, we're just playing, so maybe it'll be a little Bob Ross happy accident. But what I decided to do instead was to pull out the white tempera paint stick, because certainly they would layer on top of each other. And so I'm going in with them. I was kind of thinking clouds, but not sure if that's what these are going to end up looking like or not. But I like the white. Like I was talking earlier, I dropped that deep eggplant as a darker value, and now I'm dropping in the white as a lighter value in contrast. So I kind of like the way that is showing up. So I'm happy about that. And in the end, I think I like the way that this has come together. It needs just a little something. So if it needs something, I believe in scribbles. So I pull out a dark colored pencil and just dropping in some loose scribbles here. Again, it's about the texture and the difference in the media. So I know I said this was going to mainly be acrylic paint, and it is just a couple little touches. I tried some yellow colored pencil there, kind of skipped it in the editing because it didn't even show up. But here is where we're showing the tape peeling off. Very satisfying. And the key is to pull the tape towards the painting. And I'm doing this much slower. I have this sped up. You want to do this very slowly so that you don't rip the paper. If it doesn't want to come off, you can actually heat it up a little bit with just a little bit of heat with a blow dryer to kind of melt the stickiness. And when you're done, you see how that just kind of frames the whole thing, and it looks like you almost planned it, right? So I'll tell you, this took me some time to finish. Silly me. It's not even possible for me to finish even something in a sketchbook without some gold paint or gold leaf. So I'm just adding some touches of gold acrylic ink on top of the spots of yellow tempera paint, just to give it a little bit of shimmer when it dries. I don't even know if that's going to be this effective because this acrylic ink is just about dried up, but I couldn't help myself. So anyway, this was a good little 30 minutes that I spent on a Thursday evening with some music playing. Not a bad way to kind of chill out, and maybe you'll want to give this a try yourself one of these days. Listen, you should be able to look at an experiment like this as an opportunity to just relax, let your hair down, and play. I know I'll end up sounding like a broken record about the idea of play, but it really is so important for our mental health. And again, just remember that it's all about the process. You may be pleasantly surprised in the end by creating something you're really proud of, or you may just have a good laugh. Either way, it's time well spent. So, thank you for joining me on what I thought was going to go down the path of being maybe a beach scene, but in the end feels more to me like maybe a sunset on the bayou situation. Either way, it was a great evening spent in my sketchbook, and I hope you've either had an opportunity to paint along with me or inspired you to have a little painting session of your own. Join me back here for the next video. Take care.